Friday.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday Newsday, your #1 resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. So I'm incredibly sorry for missing out on all of last week's videos and streams. I had a bunch of great ideas, but I ended up getting really sick with the bad case of at GDC. I found out pretty quick that it's kind of hard to make videos when I can't even talk, but I do want to say that I really appreciate you all being here, and I'm gonna make it up to you guys. We got a super mega packed news day today. Everything you missed last week, V51 breaks Beat Saber, hands-on demos of HTC's newest VR device, a huge change is coming to VRChat, terrible sales of the PSVR 2, all while we get probably some of the best news the VR industry has seen in a while. All that and so much more. We got a lot to cover. So let's just get right into the news. Let's start this one off with a really short shout out to practically one of the best VR games I have ever played. Vertigo 2 just launched on Steam VR, and I might end up making a full video on it. I'm not sure yet. But in case you're wondering what the gameplay is in the background, well, it's Vertigo 2. Definitely go check it out. It's certainly newsworthy. It's made by one dude, and we gotta support our PC VR devs out there. But
these developers,
I think we all know how crazy the entire world has been the past couple months regarding AI.
Games and AAA studios.
Magical AI.
And in all the craziness, generative AI has kind of taken a lot of the VR industry or metaverse thunder. But to me at least, one of the most exciting prospects of AI everything is the crossover between VR and AI technology. How can we use this to make VR better? And well, one early demo shows off probably one of the coolest implementations I've seen yet. Golf Plus showed off a speech interactions model where instead of going through menus to select what you want to do, you have a virtual caddy that you just speak to.
My name is Arthur, the most charming caddy in town. How can I help you today?
And this is one of the most Star Trek computer holodeck things I think I've ever seen. And while this isn't part of the main app
it's been
yet,
forever
things
since I had
like
a
this
good
are
golf
starting to pop up
game,
all
man.
over the place. Scotty Fox's
I can't
experiments
golf in
with
real life,
generative
but I
AI
like golf
and
games.
mixed reality spaces are something that have boggled my mind. Even Meta experimenting with their voice to 3D object AI project just a while back. Even Unity is about to get generative AI built in. Look, for every advance in generative AI, XR and VR gets better as well. I mean, just imagine a world where you prompt your VR experiences or worlds or avatars or even just assets for a game, and they turn out more detailed than anything before it. It's a very interesting time to be alive, that's for sure. And I'll do my best to show the crossover as it happens because we're about to see a lot of really interesting things happen. I kind of have this feeling that we're about to see this space entirely change over the next few years because of what's happening. And of course, it's happening fast. And now we can move on to a little less existential of a topic before we hit on some of the more fun stuff. This big ol' mod-breaking V51 update and kind of the state of VR right now from Meta's perspective. So I know I've been pretty rough on Meta in the past, and for good reason usually, but to be honest, things are looking pretty good right now, maybe better than they ever have. And I think a good place to start here is with a big announcement that Meta made at GDC, with a report that 40 Quest titles have now reached over $10 million in revenue, and that after analyzing the data, there's a quote-unquote giant correlation between quality and sales, which, yeah, no duh, right? But there's a lot more to that statement than first meets the eye, and it was brutally obvious being at the Game Developers Conference firsthand. And sickness aside, I was actually really happy I was able to see it because
most experiences, polygons are rather large, the way they're blended are archaic, and a lot of the VR game titles that are out there have a very hard time graphically. The experience itself, being in a three-dimensional space, is fantastic. I recently had my first VR experience over my friend Tony's house. It was a boxing game, had a very expensive headset on my head, and I was blown away. It's probably one of the most memorable gaming experiences that I've ever had. It's to the point where I think I'm going to do this for the channel as well. Makes sense that the channel's called DG360, that I dabble a little bit in the VR.
VR was everywhere. It was kind of insane. I've never seen anything like it. But that's also because, very legitimately, for the first time, VR development kind of makes sense from a monetary standpoint, especially if you're making a standalone or PSVR 2 game. Right now, something is happening that kind of hasn't happened before. We're in this really positive cycle moving forward. I'll just give you a quote from the same blog post as earlier. "Increased revenue potential on the platform is what's going to drive quality," end quote. And yeah, of course, quality quality equals more sales, but more sales on a platform actually drives and increases quality. Something that I think we're about to see the fruits of. Basically, if a ton of developers see that decent VR games are making millions of dollars, well, suddenly VR game dev just makes a whole lot more sense to a studio. And this may sound simple or silly, but this whole VR makes sense thing kinda hasn't existed for the entire time I've been in VR.
Yes,
developing a VR title has always been a massive risk and definitely still is. But right now, we're witnessing a shift, and it's a really positive shift.
Absolutely.
More developers, especially on the indie side, are interested in VR than ever. And to be real, this is kind of a crazy thing.
Thank you so much, dude. Finally caught you live. Welcome, Jurg. Let's give the man one of those, and let's give him some applause. I like seeing people come in brand new, help and support the channel. Thank you very much, Jurg. You're very much appreciated, dude.
To say, you may actually have a better chance of launching a successful revenue generating title as long as it's quality on VR rather than flat screen, as long as you're developing for standalone first. And maybe the revenue ceiling isn't quite as high, but if you can get on the Oculus and Pico store, your floor is certainly higher. And Meta then closed this entire statement with the bombshell that 150 VR titles are currently in active development under Oculus publishers. Dude. So, like I said, awesome, lots of new titles, lots of interest from probably the demographic that we need at most, and that's from developers. But not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Let's talk about this update and why you should probably hold off updating for just a moment. First though, I want to take a second to acknowledge just how many updates the Quest 2 has gotten. It's probably the most updated tech device I have ever seen. Its functionality since 2020 has doubled, if not more. But you know, a kind of weird part about all these updates that I haven't really talked about much has been covering them. For a while, it seemed like every update was massive because, well, every update brought something huge like Airlink or
like, I know the VR industry has been around for a while, you know. In terms of the actual adoption rate, this is the very beginning. This is very familiar to me. It's got that like Nintendo Entertainment System kind of vibe, right? Prices still need to come down a bit. More competition in the space is only going to make graphics better in these VR titles, and also lower the pricing on the headsets. You're going to start seeing exactly what it is that I said you'd be seeing a year ago, which is more people coming in the space, realizing there's money to be made, more competition, better gear, better titles. It's happening right now, and it's happening quite fast, and the space is getting a nice little spark, a flash in the pan, if you will. And, you know, it's an S-curve. It's an S-curve. It's a disruptive technology. It only makes sense that this is going to happen. All these things are brand new, and it's hard to kind of fathom how this is going to fit into our gaming experience, our lives. But it is definitely going to happen. It's like trying to... I see people that say, no, DG, in the comments all the time. And it to me, hey, that's their opinion. That's great. I've been around long enough to understand. I don't think they're right. I think this is going to blow up. I think this is the way it's going to go. And to me, my opinion, it feels like the people that don't think that's going to happen are like literally saying, I'm going to continue to get my VHS tapes at Blockbuster. Fuck Netflix. And I loved Blockbuster. Trust me. I loved it. But eventually that shit dies. It dies. Technology makes it die. Every new step in tech eventually squashes everything down below it and becomes the new normal way of life. It just hasn't hit yet. We're way ahead of our time. Just like this morning, I talked about Tom Green, how he basically started podcasting. He was way too early to the game. VR is very similar. VR came, we are all happy about it, but when we experienced it, it was very badly put together. People getting sick visually, they're getting a little bit better at that. There's still issues with it. Polygons ridiculously large, unblended, still have issues of that. It's getting better, but like I said, more people are coming into the space. More competition means better graphics, means better performance, means better gear, better pricing. Capitalism, baby. Capitalism.
refresh rate increases. And it also turns out that saying every update is massive does really well for the algorithm too. But especially the past year or so, I've tried to be really careful about what I deem as a massive
Really,
update or
Defcon?
not. And this is especially recently considering the updates have
Very
been
retro.
relatively inconsequential. And I kind of expected V51 to be that way as well, but there are a few pretty massive things that we do need to talk about. My community post didn't quite cover it all. Of course, the biggest thing visually is global local dimming coming to the Quest Pro, which is actually amazing for the few thousand of us that own a Quest Pro. It almost brings the Pro's LCD panels to the contrast ratio of an OLED display. Not quite as good as something like the Beyond's micro OLEDs, but it makes a huge difference. The bigger part of the update that affects everyone on Quest is the fact that with V51, Quest 2 and Pro are getting an entirely new operating system, moving from Android 10 to Android 12L.
Are they bringing VHS back
And
too?
while it's too early to really tell, this could bring some very real performance increases, but it does for sure bring some awesome wireless ADB capabilities, meaning users can now enable ADB without connecting to a computer every reboot. It's awesome for tinkering and side quests. However,
Jilted, how in the hell are you, buddy? Thank you for that subscription, bro. 8 months. Subscribe. Look at you. You're becoming a regular. Look at you, Jilted. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, dude. Appreciate you.
However, there's also kind of a big problem here, and it has to do with sideloading. This update, as is right now,
man.
pretty much breaks just about all unofficial
I am
modding,
too.
especially Beat Saber mods, and it does it pretty harshly. This is mostly due to Android 12L's much stricter app signing and file permission system, and for now, the only way to save your mods is to disconnect from the internet and just not update. I saw a lot of people get really upset about this, but this isn't meta breaking things. This is a good Android update. Just Android changed between 10 and 12L, so
Right.
a lot of external apps and modding managers or tools are also going to have to change. So if you are someone that relies heavily on Quest Beat Saber mods or external apps, you should definitely wait to update to V51 until it's confirmed that your apps will work properly. Otherwise, you're just kind of stuck. And I'll link the Beat Saber modding community down below. They're currently working on an update, but this PSA needs to happen. There's a lot of misinformation out there about what's going on. So hopefully this fixes some of that. But yeah, beyond mods breaking, things are looking pretty good. But now it's time for a meme break. So you may remember the Deca Gear, the supposed index killer from a couple years back that ended up falling apart and turning into, well, kind of nothing more than vaporware. Well, looks like the headset is actually gonna end up releasing soon. This time with micro OLED displays and, oh, nope. Looks like one of Megadodo's ex-employees hacked into the official LinkedIn page and posted an April Fool's joke. Sad. But now, back to the news. Let's talk about the PSVR 2. Turns out that reportedly the headset has sold significantly less units than Sony had expected. And by less, I'm talking about around 1/10. According to Bloomberg, PlayStation was aiming to sell 2 million units during its launch quarter. And instead, so far, they've only sold around 270,000.
madness.
That's a lot to miss projections by. But a couple of things. For one, this is just a report. It may not be factual at all. We don't have any numbers from Sony themselves, so I think we should take this with a pretty decent grain of salt.
Let's
And
wait
I
for the
think, to be
quarterlies.
honest, a headline that reads PSVR 2 fails to reach sales targets probably gains
He's
a lot
right.
more clicks than a PSVR 2
He's
sells
right.
a 250,000 units in the first month. When you look at it, there are a lot more people that didn't buy PSVR 2 than did. And it's way easier to appeal to the people that didn't than the people that did buy it. Still, there are lots of VR haters out there, and sometimes Bloomberg is actually one of them. However, that being said, I obviously want the PSVR 2 to succeed, and I think it will in time. Even now, the devs are reporting healthy software sales, which is good. But
Eggs,
playing
dude,
a
I
little
know,
devil's
dude.
advocate, I can actually
can't.
see why the
I can
PSVR 2
barely afford
hasn't
the
sold all
fixes
that
for
well.
my car,
It's a lockdown
dude.
platform
It's only gonna
restricted
get
to
worse.
only the PS5, which I don't necessarily like. It only has around 40 games or so, and it's expensive. But the thing hasn't even hit store shelves yet. In most places, the only way to buy it
In the toughest times, though, gaming goes through the roof. Like sales of anything that can escape you from reality go amazing in bear markets. Gaming, right? Alcohol, like anything that offers escapism is a bull market in a bear market. Like quite literally. It's crazy. People will gravitate to the nearest thing that will get them out of their fucking reality. For real, dude.
is through the PlayStation Store. So IMO PSVR 2 has only experienced a soft launch, and we'll see where it lands in 2024 whenever we get official Sony numbers. But now it's time for some rapid fire news. There's a lot more that happened. VRChat is about to change forever. So love it or hate it, VRC has turned into one of the most popular PC VR and Quest standalone games, constantly breaking records for active players on both platforms. But VRChat recently announced probably one of the biggest changes to the platform yet, bringing VRChat to Android phones within just the next few months.
I don't know.
Starting with VRChat Plus members. This Android version would share the exact same avatar and world restrictions as the Quest version, and I just find this super interesting. Undoubtedly, this will change a lot of the social landscape of VRChat, but this does bring VRChat to millions of new people once it's open to the public. And I just want to think about something for a second. When you think of the quote-unquote metaverse, the whole base idea of it is interoperability between devices and software, VR or not. And all in all, this is pretty much that. So I'm curious what you guys think. It's a big move that could potentially bring a lot of change, but I think long-term, especially regarding the upcoming creator economy, this is probably good. I just really hope that the minor issue is taken seriously as the floodgates open. So I did actually get a chance to try out HTC's new standalone Vive trackers while at GDC. These things are pretty nuts. They track just as well as Vive trackers, just without the base stations, which is something we have never seen before. It's the first of its kind. And I think this just definitely deserves a video on its own though. This one device does way more than just full body tracking and kind of changes the way tracked devices in VR work forever. But I did want to show off at least a little bit of it. You can see the soccer demo I tried out here and how the tracking quality was shockingly good. We still don't have a price yet or ship date, but Q3 2023 should be it, and keep on the lookout for that video. I'll be going really deep into this and the XR Elite, hopefully sometime this week now that I'm back in action. Apple's CEO Tim Cook again hints at some sort of XR device coming soon, possibly at the upcoming WWDC, even if some reports state that the device has been delayed again. There's a lot of conflicting information right now. Really, the best thing to do is just save and wait. But in this interview, Cook basically tries to sell the idea of
Apple is so far behind the curve. They are not the leaders anymore. Apple is a bank. Apple has become a bank that continually brings out a new iPhone. That's it. That's all they are. There's no innovation. There's nothing in the space coming down the pipe that shows that there's any innovation. Tim Cook is literally a CEO of a bank, and probably the reason why there is no innovation coming from it. Really, when you had Woz there, when you had Jobs there, it was a great combo wombo, man. And they came out with new tech, and I really miss that duo, dude. I really miss that vibe. They brought out so many great ideas, and Apple is a former shell of what it used to be. Apple now has way too many worms in it. It's like there's too many worms in this Apple right now, man. They're so far behind, and what they're bringing out is trash. I heard rumors of electric cars. Okay, where is it? Get them out already. You're Apple. You have enough money to do whatever it is that you want to do, but they don't do it. Why don't they do it? Because they're old and stodgy, and they're literally a bank now. They don't need to do anything. Just let their money make money, and that's how Tim Cook is operating his business. It is ridiculous. It is being suffocated in terms of innovation.
Of AR headsets,
Tesla phone,
stating that he and Apple were wrong in thinking that
let
extra
Elon do
devices
it,
like
man.
this wouldn't work. At first, stating that
Let
Apple
Elon
was
innovate the
against
space.
something like an AR headset, but that they are now interested in the market because they believe Apple can own the entire market.
Style, 110%
I'm not interested in putting together
correct.
pieces of somebody else's stuff because we want to control the primary technology because we know that's how you innovate.
You don't innovate.
Ooh, watch out, Mark. You might just get cooked when it comes to AR. But we're, of course, still not sure what's happening. Keeping all eyes open. And one more thing just happened like a few hours ago. Eye-tracked foveated rendering is coming to the Quest Pro over Link and AirLink with OpenXR Toolkit. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of foveated rendering, and seeing it come as a proper feature is exciting. I've been waiting for it. Some people may say it's only a 10 to 20% increase, but shoot, I'll take it. 10 to 20% sounds like a pretty good deal to me. And that's the week's news. This was probably one of the most packed Tuesday news days in a long time. Sorry again for being a little late. Being sick really sucks, but really thank you so much for being here and for watching these videos. Taking some forced time off actually felt really good, but leave a question of the week down below and I may just answer yours next. Join in my Twitch.
Dude, Tim Cook is the Denethor of the Apple empire. He's a bad steward. He's a bad steward. All right, that was a nerdy Lord of the Rings joke. All right, let's get to the... A Denethor. You didn't get that, Pepe? Too highbrow.